Well, it's time for Culture on France 24, and we'll be speaking to Stephen Clark in just a minute about the Minitel. If you don't know what that is, you need to stay tuned. But first, here's a question for all you comic buffs. Have you ever heard of the superhero Super Mamuka? Well, you would be forgiven if you hadn't, because this crime fighter is actually a 93-year-old French grandmother. Frederica Golderger's Super Mamuka alter ego was created for her by her grandson photographer Sasha. And although Super Mamuka can fly at the speed of light, she's more inclined to take a taxi. Katerina Vitozzi takes a look.
It's not a bird or a plane, it's a 93-year-old grandmother who's ready for her close-up. The man who's made her a superhero, her grandson, photographer Sasha Goldberger, who calls her Mamuka.
I didn't want to do it. I always said no when he suggested something, didn't I?
No, it's not true. The first time I suggested it, she did it not because she wanted to, but to make me happy. I'd say, come on, Gran, let's take some photos, and she'd say, yes, if it makes you happy.
Super Mamuka is a very modern sort of superhero. Strong, of course, but not embarrassed to take a taxi or combat a few baddies on the ironing board. For Goldberger, it's a chance to show that being older can be its own great adventure.
I wanted to show that you can be 80, 85, even 90 and still be full of spirit and do different things. I wanted to show another version of old age.
In real life, Mamuka goes by the name Frederica, and she is herself a bit of a heroine. A Hungarian Jew, she survived Nazi occupation, saving 11 people in the process before emigrating to France. And although she's not convinced by all her grandson's suggestions,
Let me do a normal pose.
she is always game for a chance to tease him.
He's the naughty one. I'm a wise old lady.
A wise old lady now forever immortalised as Super Mamuka.
Well, this week, Stephen Clark is here to talk about a piece of technology that is about to become defunct. I like that word, defunct, Stephen. And so this technology that's going to become defunct is a piece of French technology, of course.
Yes. Sadly for France, there was a sad contrast this week. We saw one of the first Apple computers selling at auction for $374,500, a sign of how much the world, wants Apple technology.
Rivera's Apple technology.
Yeah, and at the same time, unfortunately, on the 30th of June, a very important piece of French computer technology is going to die. This is the Minitel.
Now, for those that don't know the Minitel, it's an important part of French culture. It's also an important childhood memory for me, so be careful what you say.
Okay. Well, I don't want to destroy any memories. No, it was a great memory for France because it was launched in 1982, a precursor of the internet, 10 years before the internet, really. You could hire a little box, we can see some of them, a little computer, you had it in your home.
They're magnificent, streamlined, modern technology.
Yeah, 1980s technology. You had them in your home, you could do simple things at first. There was an electronic online telephone book. You could look at weather forecasts.
Very useful.
Get some, railway tickets. You could do things like that. And it quite quickly became popular in French homes.
Because it also had other uses, correct?
Exactly. It became very profitable when France, ahead of everyone else, invented the internet chat room. It invented these, what they call messagerie rose, pink message services.
Why is it pink?
Pink, I have no idea. Ask the French. And everywhere in France, you saw these advertising billboards for 3615. That was the number you typed, and then you typed in the name of these. I never did it myself. Name of these services, and you could chat online. And at that point,
so the content seems to be pretty salacious.
Very, yeah, and very French. And it took off. And Minitel became incredibly popular. Apparently, half the adult population of France was using this thing. I mean, it was an incredibly popular invention. But of course, it was a French internet. That's the thing. It was
and then the internet arrived.
Exactly.
The real internet, that is.
Well, the Anglo-Saxon internet, the Anglo-American invention came in the early 90s, and that was the death warrant, really, for the Minitel. As soon as that came in. But the thing is, you've got to remember, is that apart from inventing the chat room, at that time, when the internet first arrived, there were more French people using the Minitel than there were using the whole of the internet in the world. That's how important it was.
You see how advanced the French were in their
The French were advanced in their own technology. The trouble is, people didn't want their technology. They invented another one, which has now killed off the French technology.
And I gather you have other examples of French technology that didn't quite catch on.
Yeah, France is very good at inventing these revolutionary technologies that no one else wants. It's a bit sad. I found, for example, there was this telegraph system in the 1790s, a series of buildings on hilltops. Okay, you moved the arms to shape them into letters, a kind of semaphore. There was a network of these things.
Well, and that didn't
that's the
catch on?
alphabet. Well, it did. There was a network of them from Paris to Amsterdam and Milan. It was very popular. It wasn't very useful when it was cloudy, of course. And then in 1836, an Englishman invented the wire telegraph, and this system became obsolete, this French system. You can see a few of those hilltop buildings around France now. There are some other examples I found of things that the rest of the world didn't want, but which were very popular in France. For example, I hope we're going to see a picture of this terrible, the Renault 4 gear change. I only tried it once and I got stuck in reverse
that's magic.
for about 10 kilometers. Yeah, no one else wanted it though. It's a very weird thing.
You mean other countries don't use it?
This hygienic, very unhygienic rather, soap dispenser you used to see in all French cafes.
In every French school as well.
Yeah, and pétanque, which no one else in the world wants to play, except apparently for Thai women who are world champions at the moment. It hasn't, taken over like English sports.
You know, that's unfair
rugby.
because there are variations of pétanque in other countries.
Yeah, but people don't want this French sort of gravelly, one.
Are there any inventions that did work then,
Of
that
course.
did catch on?
I mean, France is a great country for inventions, and I found a few that have. The hot air balloon invented in France just before the Revolution, taken over the world. The Braille alphabet is very important.
Oh, that's useful.
In the 1830s, everyone still uses it now. And then, of course, the
what's
bikini. The bikini. Thanks to France, this is how the world's beaches were going to look this summer, as they do every summer.
Well, George, the producer for this show, is loving that particular shot of the bikini. There
That's
you
his
go.
problem.
Each to his own, each to his own. All right. Well, thank you very much, Stephen Clark. Thank you for watching us here on France 24. That's it for World News. That's it for the Culture Show. We're back with more World News in just a few minutes. Do stay tuned. Bye-bye.